Welcome to Down to Earth. It's May and we're downtown this month doing a little front yard makeover, and we've got a lot of rocks in this one. A lot of people in downtown area, they know all about this cobble. A lot of the houses are faced with them down here because there were so many of them. But we're doing a changeover from a thirsty garden where it used to be an old lawn, and we're going to a Mediterranean style. So we're going to be using a lot of Mediterranean style plants like this euphorbia. This is a new cultivar called Blue Haze. This one has a really pretty flower in the spring. It's kind of chartreuse. That's yellow-green for you color challenged guys out there. And we're using lots of other things too, trees and shrubs, leptospermums, melaleucas, kangaroo paws. We're also going to put in some fruit trees, but it's going to bring in lots of birds, lots of bees, lots of activity, lots of movement. It's going to be really pretty, and it's going to take a lot less work, a lot less water, and just be a lot more friendly to the environment. We've chosen a lot of nice Mediterranean plants for this garden. And remember, Mediterranean and drought tolerant doesn't necessarily mean cactus. There's lots of great drought tolerant plants that are exciting, that do great here in San Diego. One of the things we had to do though was amend the soil because we needed to make it better. In this case, we brought in 6 yards of compost and we amended the entire soil all at once. It's really the best way to go ahead and amend the soil because that's where the roots are going to live, in the whole area. This is opposed to spot amending where you're just amending individually where you're putting plants in. If you get the chance to do the whole thing, take advantage of it, put the compost in, you won't be sorry. We also needed to get rid of quite a few rocks that were at this landscape site. I don't think it really bothers the plants all that much, but it makes it really hard to cultivate, so the rocks have to come out.
Looks like you guys need some help.
Actually, Jimmy, we don't need any help. It's pretty convenient how you show up to help when the cameras are here.
Tom calls me in when he needs the big boys here.
You get it, dude.
Dude, out.
Now that the irrigation's in and the soil's been amended, it's time to spot the plants. Now, we're starting with a blank slate here, so it's kind of nice. We get to pick and choose exactly where we want our trees and shrubs. And that's the best place to start, with the woody things that are going to be permanent and the largest. Always start with your trees first, then your shrubs, then work down to the perennials, the bulbs, the grasses. It's the way I always do my design work. There was a nice tree on the property. Unfortunately, it was planted in the wrong location. This purple leaf plum was in this tight little alcove. It's only about 3 or 4 feet across, not really big enough for a plum. Plums get about 20 feet. So we're going to transplant this one to a different location in the garden. The important thing is to have a hole dug in advance. We want to situate the new tree in its new location and get it watered as soon as possible. The one other thing we have to do is thin the head of the tree out because we want to reduce transplant shock. So we're going to go in, do a little pruning, artistically, maybe give it a little bit of a lean, and then give it a really good drink. And that's really all it needs, and it'll be just fine. As far as planting goes, it's like anything else. We want to scratch the root balls up a little bit so the roots can make good contact with their new soil. Always plant just a little bit high because we want to account for some of the soil settling later on. Some of the bigger plants, we might want to put a basin around and make sure we get a good deep drink on those until they're well established. The smaller ones, it's not usually a big deal because we're going to be mulching these beds later, and that's going to hold plenty of moisture in for the small ones. Now, as far as those rocks we took out of the soil, Mama always used to say, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, in this case, life gave us rocks. What we're going to do is make a dry stream bed. It's a great way to get rid of rocks, and because they came from the site, we don't even have to pay for them. It's going to make a great design feature. While we've got lots of great drought-tolerant plants in this garden, I really only have enough time to highlight one. It's going to be this Salvia dolomitica. It's going to be my plant pick of the month. But if you want to take a look at some of the other plants we've used in this landscape, go to the website at ctn.org. We'll have a whole list of plants there. You can check it out, print it up, head out to your nurseries. The reason I like this salvia and I wanted to highlight it, it's because it's one that's not that common. It's from South Africa, and the name Salvia dolomitica comes from the fact that it grows on dolomite lime. And if you know anything about lime, it's very alkaline. And our soils in San Diego have a tendency to be fairly alkaline as well. So that's why it's one of those things that it's a really good fit for our climate. It's also extremely drought tolerant. The thing I really like is the gray foliage and the really big flowers with the lavender lip. It seems to really need no extra care, no extra feeding, nothing special. And because it's so tight, maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet tall and wide, I almost never need to trim it. So it's one of those that you may have to ask for in the nurseries, but it's well worth taking a look out for, making sure you can try and find one. Salvia dolomitica, something to definitely check out. One last feature we put in this landscape was a path. Now, you can spend a lot of money and put in stone or pave it, but we chose to just use decomposed granite. It's a wonderful material. We've talked about it before. It locks in place. It's just like concrete. It's relatively inexpensive, and I think it looks great with Mediterranean plants. You want to make sure that you put at least a couple of inches of DG down. That should make it nice and stable and prevent a lot of weeds. You're more likely to find this stuff at a materials yard. Someplace they sell rock, stone, brick, and they might even give you some color choices. In any case, it's a great material to use in the landscape. And for you new viewers who just started watching the show, check the archives. I'm going to save our regular viewers my mulch lecture, but trust me, it's important. I can't help myself. Use shredded mulch on hills. It's going to stay put, it's going to knit, and it's just going to make everything so much better. It's going to decompose and make your plants thrive. Now remember, this is what it looked like before. Does this look a lot like your yard? If so, you probably don't see any hummingbirds in your yard either. Well, now that we've installed the new plants, we're going to have all kinds of hummingbirds and butterflies. This thing is just going to be teeming with life. And trust me, when you put in an interesting landscape with interesting plants, it's a lot more fun to garden than going out and mowing the old Bermuda lawn. And another great bonus, lots of cut flowers for the house. Well, that's it. The landscape's all installed. The guys are watering in. And remember, that's the most critical part of any landscape, making sure that everything gets watered in well, including the surrounding soil. The plants cannot dry out at this stage. Even drought-tolerant ones need plenty of water to get them started. So for the first 6 weeks or so, make sure you're out there with the hose regularly, even if you've got an automated system. It's critical that these plants stay well watered to get a good root system.